Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Brandon Morvillius. Alongside here with me is cameraman Jordan Redbeard McCoy, live here on the WHS Network, here on YouTube.com, here with your 2020 IHSAA Regional 10 Boys Basketball Tournament preview show here this evening. As we'll give you a nice little insight on all four basketball teams that are in Regional 10 action this coming Saturday, March the 14th at LaPel High School. It's a good time for us to be able to share with you what we kind of found out from a stats standpoint, breaking down each team and individual players to watch for as well. And so it should be a great time. Again, we always usually try to do this for all state tournament action with all the different sports. So we appreciate you all for joining us here tonight. So we're going to get things started here on a very special announcement, if you will, somewhat on a sour note. Unfortunately, we will not be broadcasting the Regional 10 games at LaPel coming up on Saturday. Unfortunately, we was notified just the other day by athletic director and head coach of the basketball team, Matt Luce, that he had a meeting with LaPel and IHSAA officials, and the IHSAA is actually going to be broadcasting all Regional 10 games at LaPel High School. So for those of us that do video broadcast, we're not allowed to do it because the IHSAA has video rights, exclusive video rights, for any state tournament game that they choose to do so, and which, most of the time that only comes up during the state finals, in which, we've had that, various different times when we've got to the state finals in whatever respective sport. And so we've never had to deal with that throughout our other journey, with sectionals or regionals or semi-state. So this is a first for us. It's, it's definitely disappointing for us because we want to broadcast the games. We want to broadcast for all of you and showcase all these fine young men that are going out there and battling for, their right and position to get even further in postseason play. Just unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do that. But again, it's going to be on ihsaatv.org. Okay, so if you get on there, it's either .org or .com. But either way, just get on there. The game will be on there at 10:30 on Saturday morning, March the 14th. So again, we're not going to be having any kind of broadcast whatsoever. We're not allowed to. So we did want to make that announcement here this evening during our preview show, so then all of you understand the situation and know where to look. So if you can't go to the ball game Saturday, which we're expecting it to be a very packed house at LaPel, so if you can't make it, then you at least know where to go to, and hopefully you all aren't going to be mad at us. Again, it's nothing that we could control. It was out of our hands. It's something that, with the IHSA having those exclusive rights to any games during the state tournament that they choose to do, any ball game that they have the right to do so, and it takes away from other broadcasting teams like ourselves that do it with a video broadcast. Well, I know there's going to be, I think, one or two other radio stations there, which they can do that considering it's the radio. But we wanted to make sure and let all you know all about that on Saturday, that we will not be broadcasting any games. However, we will still be there, and we'll be posting live updates throughout the day on our Facebook and Twitter pages. So if you haven't followed us on there yet, make sure to do so at WHS Network on both of those social media outlets. And like I said, we'll keep you up to date on all the action, anything for Raider sports. So we'll go ahead and get right into things with our Regional 10 bracket, and it looks like this. Your Wapahoney Raiders will take on the Rossville Hornets on Saturday morning on March the 14th. That'll be a 10:30 start time. Again, all Regional 10 action held at LaPel High School. So just about an hour drive from here, not too far. But again, it should be a great game. Two very impressive basketball teams coming off of big sectional victories in their respective sectionals. They're Western Boone there for Rossville, and obviously Alexandria here for Wapahoney. And then the second game of the day at 12 o'clock, that'll be featuring the Blackford Bruins taking on the Rochester Zebras. Again, that'll be a 12 o'clock start time, March the 14th, this coming Saturday. Then with the Regional 10 championship game being held again at LaPel High School at 8 p.m., again, this coming Saturday, March the 14th. So again, that's the outlook of the bracket. We wanted to make sure and get that out there so that all of you kind of know what things look like there a little bit, and what times and where at and who's going to be playing, all that great stuff. So we're going to get right into things here. Your Wapahoney Raiders, again, with are the winners of the Sectional 40 basketball tournament held at Alexandria last weekend. Had 3 very impressive wins against LaPel, and then Alexandria, and then Frankton, 2 or 3 of the best in that sectional. That's such a very tough sectional. So for us to come away with that was quite impressive and very good wins for us. But we take a look here, overall breakdown team-wise. The Raiders, 62 points scored overall per ball game, while only allowing 48.6. Also, we have a 46% field goal percentage, 561 of 1,216. Also 37% from behind the three-point line, 190 of 510. And then from the charity stripe, better known as the free throw line, we're 236 of 371, 64% from the free throw line there. Average 31.6 rebounds per game, as well as 12.2 assists and 6.3 steals, and 9.4 turnovers per game. So we have a nice balance offensively, being able to establish that inside game. Outside game obviously has been working pretty good for us when we've been able to get the ball down floor. And like I said, rebounding, extremely key. That and free throws, taking care of the basketball and forcing turnovers on the defensive end is really one of the biggest keys in any ball game. Players to watch for. Obviously, you know them all very well. The Raiders had a fantastic group of young men here to really watch for throughout the season here. And we're going to start off here with senior guard Trey Spence. Trey is averaging 16.4 points per ball game, also grabbing 3.8 rebounds and 3.1 steals. This is a 52% field goal percentage overall. Followed here, we have 23 of 67, 34% from beyond the arc, and he's also a 67% free throw shooter, 68 of 102. So again, that's senior guard Trey Spence. Next up here we have Evan Roush, another fine young senior guard here for the Raider basketball team, averaging 11 points per ball game, 2.8 rebounds, also 4.4 assists per game as well there for Evan. 41% field goal percentage overall, and 39% from downtown, 53 of 137, and he's 49 of 68, 72% from the free throw line. Next we have Drew Luce, the young man averaging 14.4 points per game, also 6.2 rebounds and 2.6 assists. Also 135 of 301, 45% from field goal range. And then from downtown we have 52 of 125, which is good for 42% from beyond the arc. And then lastly here from the free throw line, 39 of 54, that is 72% from the charity stripe. Next here is the big fella, Braxton Davis. The young man has continued to chug along here throughout the season in double digits in points, 10.4 points per game, also grabbing 6.2 rebounds, 46% field goal percentage. And what I really like most about him, he can showcase his range, 48 of 128, 38% from beyond the arc. And then another big man, and Caleb Henderson, another young man I really enjoy watching here. Gets in there, hustles, loose balls, and it's not just him, it's a lot of other guys there as well that's getting out there and doing the little intangibles. But he's putting up some nice stats here as well, 4 points per ball game, also grabbing 6.4 rebounds. He's a 53% field goal percentage overall. So, that's what you want out of your dominant big men there on the inside. Next up here we have Blake Castor, 2.8 points a game, 2.8 rebounds a game, so Mr. Consistency, also 50% from the 50% field goal percentage overall, and 71% from the free throw line. And he's been key coming off the bench, gives us that extra spark plug. Walker Cook, much of the same thing. All these guys really contributing to this 20-5 record here so far on the season. Next up here we have the Rossville Hornets, 18-7 coming in to the Regional 10 action. Again, winners of the Western Boone sectional. So we'll take a look here at them. Rossville averaging 58.1 points per game offensively, while allowing 51.5. Now, from a field goal standpoint here, 566 of 1206, 47% from the field. Also 121 of 369, 33% from beyond the arc. And then from the free throw line, 65%, that's 243 of 372. They also averaged 26.6 rebounds per game, 11.9 assists, also 7.7 steals, and then they turn it over nearly 13 times a game. Now some players, again, to watch for here for Rossville. It's hard to kind of get a grasp on these guys because most of the people probably, at least have maybe possibly heard of the school, but have never seen them play before. So that's where we come in. We got a little breakdown here on these guys. Key players to watch for is number one, probably their best player overall is Dirk Shaw. He's a 6'4" forward, averaging 15 points a game, also 8 rebounds, 2.5 assists per game, 51% percentage, field goal percentage overall, 157 of 307. Now Shaw doesn't really shoot very much from downtown. He's 7 of 21, 33%. So that's not I guess a high priority for him, but can also do pretty good from the free throw line, 68 of 168% overall from the charity stripe. Next up here we have a guard player here, a 6-foot guard for the Hornets, and that's Damon Shaw. The young man averages 8.4 points a game, 4.5 rebounds, as well as 3 assists. He's a 45% field goal percentage overall, and also 15 of 46, 33% from beyond the arc, and then 78% from the free throw line. So again, that's guard player Damon Shaw here for the Hornets. Next up here we have a 5'10" guard and Luke Meek, 8.2 points a game, also 2 rebounds. Young man, it's scrappy, probably one of the better, possibly even the best three-point shooter here for the Hornets is Luke Meek. 45% field goal shooter and 35% from downtown, 32 of 92, while also shooting 60% from the free throw line. So again, that is 5'10" guard Luke Meek. Next up here we have Reed Douglas, another young man here that's 5'10" and really doing a nice job here with his guard play. 8 points per ball game, 2.7 rebounds, also 1.9 assists and 1.4 steals on the season here. 45% field goal percentage, 31% from downtown, 23 of 75. Again, another young man that can get inside but likes to extend his range outwards as well. Not all that tall. He's about the same height, and most of these guys are about the same height of like Evan Roush, more or less. 5'10", 5'11" range. So not extremely tall, but tall enough. They can get inside, but they can also shoot from outside as well. So then lastly here we have Jesse Cornell, 7.2 points a game, 4 rebounds a game, 44% field goal shooter overall, 32% from downtown, 16 of 50. And then 54% from the charity stripe. Again, that's a 5'11" forward here in Jesse Cornell. And then we have Jaden Brown, young man that comes off the bench. He's really provided a nice spark plug there for them. 6'2" forward is Jaden Brown, 5.8 points a game, 2.1 rebounds, also 49% field goal percentage, 23 of 56, 41% from downtown. Tends to fall in love with the three-point shot. So got to make sure and get out on these guys. Get a hand in the face, if anything else, because you can't afford to leave guys wide open on the outside. You somehow, some way, just get a hand out there, just to be a distraction to where you're just not given a clear view of the basket.
Distract them some way.
That's exactly right. So again, that's the Rossville Hornets. That's the breakdown of the first game of the evening or the afternoon or morning, whatever it is, 10:30. We're not used to a start time of that.
Morning.
But again, that's Wapahani and Rossville, and I'll send things on over here to Redbeard. Give you the lowdown there on Blackford and Rochester.
Thanks, Marv. Yeah, Blackford comes in at 21-5 on the season. As a team, they score 77.3 points a game while allowing 61.4. From the field, they're 47%, which is 709 of 1501. From downtown, they're 37%, which is 254 of 681. From the free throw line, they're 341 of 471, which is good for 72%. They get 29 rebounds a game, 13 assists per game, 7 steals per game, and they turn the ball over 10 times a game. Now, players to watch, by far their best player, Luke Brown, we all know.
Yeah.
He scores 32.3 points per game, which I think is leading the state. If not, he's pretty close.
I believe you're right, yes.
He's pretty close. Pretty much 4 rebounds a game, 7 assists per game, and 3.2 steals per game. From the field, he's 291, of 537, good for 54%. From downtown, he's 101 of 250, which is good for 40%, and he's a 90% free throw shooter. Next, we got Brandon Strobel, 14.7 points a game and 5 rebounds per game. From the field, he's 127 of 318, which is good for 40%. From downtown, he's 75 of 183, good for 41%. And from the free throw line, he's 54 of 74, which is 73%. Next, we got Max Wars, 9.6 points a game, getting 4.6 rebounds a game. From the field, he's 88 for 203, good for 43%. From downtown, he's 27 of 76, which is good for 36%. He's also a 55% free throw shooter. Next, we got Cam Elam, 7.5 points a game, and he gets 3 rebounds per game. From the field, he's 68 for 166, good for 41%. From three-point lane, he's 35 of 102, good for 34%. And he's also a 66 free throw percent shooter as well. Finally, we got Dalton Willman. He gets 6.8 points per game, 5.3 rebounds per game. From the field, he's 68 for 111, which is good for 61%. And he's also a 60% free throw shooter. Next, we got the Rochester Zebras. They come in at 12 and 10. As a team, they average 53.8 points a game while allowing 47.8. From the field, they're 45%, 430 of 954. From downtown, they're 113 of 306, good for 37%. From the free throw line, they're 210 of 312, which is good for 67%. They get 28 rebounds a game, 11.9 assists per game, 6.3 steals a game, and they turn the ball over 12 times a game. Now some players to watch for. First, we got Grant McCarter, 11.6 points a game, 2 rebounds per game. From the field, he's 85 of 200, good for 43%. From downtown, he's 55 of 120, good for 46%. And he's 86% free throw shooter, good for 31 of 36. Next, we got Quinn Stesiak, 10.5 points a game, 6.1 rebounds per game, and 2.1 assists per game. From the field, he's 78 for 167, good for 47%. From downtown, he's 14 of 54, good for 26%. And from the free throw line, he's 62 of 77, good for 81%. Next, we have Kyle Reinertz, 7.8 points per game, 5.7 rebounds per game. He's from the field, he's 59%, which is 72 of 123. From the free throw line, he's a 70% shooter as well. Next, we have Calvary Lingenfelter, 6.2 points per game, 2.7 rebounds per game, as well as 2.5 assists per game. From the field, he's 41%, which is 49 of 120. Downtown, he's 19 of 49, which is good for 39%. He's also a 69% free throw shooter. Next, we have Blake Hughes, 5.5 points per game, 4.5 rebounds per game. From the field, he's 48 of 97, good for 49%. He's also a 53% free throw shooter. Finally, we have Nick Allen, 5.2 points per game, 1.8 rebounds per game, and 2.2 assists per game. From the field, he's 41%, which is good for 43 of 105. From downtown, he's 17 of 51, good for 33%. He's also a 60% free throw shooter. Now, I'll send it on back over to Mar for the scouting report for each team.
All right. Well, he doesn't talk very long, and as usually I always
keep it short and sweet.
Well, short, sweet, and to the point. I might linger on a little bit. But scouting breakdown, what I did was I went through everything with a fine-tooth comb, very, specific on things. I went through and looked at all these different teams. So you got 3 other opponents that we potentially can face. You know, obviously Rossville is a given, but then Blackford and Rochester, you know, kind of looked at them as well. But went on, got some tape, and I looked at that, broke all these different teams down, offensively, defensively, kind of what their tendencies are a little bit. Again, just so then all of you know what to expect a little bit from these guys. So we're going to first break down this Rossville basketball team. They're scrappy, you know, kind of a little bit in some ways like Frankton. Somewhat as, you know, just about as nearly as talented offensively. They don't really necessarily play a whole lot of press, you know, in a defensive standpoint. They're mostly man-to-man in a half court. Occasionally we'll throw out a 2-3 zone. But a press, occasionally they'll come out with a 2-1-2, if you will. You know, you got 2 more majority at the free throw line or guarding the inbound with the 2 guards that are in the back court, and then you got usually 1 in the middle or 2 in the middle. You know, sometimes they can change it up to from a 2-1-2 to a 2-2-1. I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but I'm just passionate about it. I'm breaking down all these teams, but those are the presses that they're going to throw at you now. From a standpoint of when we inbound the ball, and majority of the time it's going to be either Trey Spence or Evan Roush bringing the ball down floor here for Wapahani. We've got to have guys back, meaning whoever's inbounding the basketball has to stay back there with whoever's bringing the ball up the floor, and then maybe even having another guy at the middle of the court, at the half court line, and because there's a lot of times where initially if you inbound the ball, they'll just go man to man, but then they'll end up dropping off. You have one guy guarding another one. He'll come off of him and then end up going more towards the guy that has the basketball, the guard that's bringing it up the floor to try to trap you. And that's when I would probably start hitting the gas. Time to get it up court, because I know from watching some video on these guys, they tend to do that at times, especially mostly off of made baskets. They don't ever press when there's not a made basket. So when they offensively score, then that's usually when they will sometimes apply the press. But again, just making sure getting down the floor, not allowing their defense to get established is one of the biggest things. And then, like I said, in their half-court defense, occasionally, yes, they will trap. Most of it's man-to-man or zone. If you get them down early, then they might start reverting to that trap again, like we've seen against Frankton as well, and a couple other teams throughout the season. So they're definitely accustomed to that. Now, like I mentioned here with you have Meek, and then you have Douglas and Cornell. Those three are the best outside shooters that Rossville has, along with Jaden Brown. These four guys right there, above average shooters. So you got to get out there on them. You got to force them to drive, and then on the inside, we've got to collapse, and we've got to make sure and keep them out of the paint areas. It's just, we've got to bring the intensity on the defensive end. Then you have the likes of Dirk Shaw, which is probably the best player that they have, and that's no disrespect to any of the other players, but the numbers show it. He gets out there, works his tail off, and he's putting up some big-time numbers here for this Hornets basketball team. 6'4" forward, mostly an inside player. Like I said, he doesn't really shoot very much from outside. He's only 7 for 21 from beyond the arc. So most of his is dribbling it inside, which he is very athletic. He'll get the ball outside. He can show off his range a little bit, kind of like a Braxton Davis does, but not anywhere close to the outside shooter that Braxton Davis is. But he can handle the basketball, dribbles the ball inside, and can also post up, has some nice post moves, gets rebounds, is able to put them off the glass there for second chance points. So you got to block out, got to keep them out of the post area and rebound the basketball to keep them from having second chance opportunities, and for allowing him to possibly make a big impact on the ball game and keeping them outside of the paint. So again, that's the Rossville Hornets. Next up here, the Blackford Bruins. I've got to take a look at these guys quite a bit as well. And they have a broadcasting team there that broadcasts their games. I watch quite often just to kind of analyze things a little bit, and it's actually worked out pretty well because I know quite a bit about them. Blackford enjoys running up and down the floor. That's one big thing they love to do. They like to run and gun offensively. Defensively, they're kind of laxed a little bit. They allow quite a few points. I think they allow was a little over 61 points a game. So, yes, they score a lot offensively, but they also give up quite a bit of points as well. And so, it's mostly a man-to-man kind of defense. Occasionally, they'll throw some zone on you, a 2-3 zone, but it's not overpowering. You can get the ball inside. You can get things established. You can also shoot from out. That's one big thing that defensively they do allow their points. They do have a fair share of guys that can rebound, though, on the inside there for Blackford. One of those guys is Max Wars. He's 6'3" forward for him. So you got to really pay attention to him. But obviously Luke Brown. I mean, there's no secret about him. Possibly one of the best basketball players in the state of Indiana, not only this year, but
he's only a junior.
Yeah, in a very long time, and he's only just like Redbeard said, he's only a junior. But this young man, it's hard to contain him. There's no question about that. He kind of has the whole package. He can dribble inside with success, being able to get runners to go, get inside and attack the rim. And get layups to go, or he can extend that range out. And believe me, from watching him,
it's nothing for him to pull up from the volleyball line.
No,
farther.
Yeah, he can shoot from way downtown, and he can knock him down. I mean, the young man has a little over 100 made 3-pointers on the season. I mean, he can get it done. There's no question about it. And when you're averaging 32 and a half a game or so, you're doing something right. And he shoots the basketball very well, handles the ball, passes just as well as anybody I've probably ever seen. And so, like I said, he's the whole package, and he's the real deal. There's no question about it. So defensively, you've just got to stay with him first and foremost. I would have someone on him, all the time, face guarding him the whole time to make him uncomfortable. And then after that, if he can get by you, then that's where your help side defense comes into play. You got to, as they always say, help the helper. And so he's a very key player. Also, Brandon Strobel, another fun athlete here for this Bruins basketball team that, again, can get inside. He's got some height. He's, I think, right around 6'3". So the young man can get inside. He rebounds the basketball very well, but also likes to hit threes. He's a big-time three-point threat along with Luke Brown. So I would really be very careful when treading the waters and just only focusing in on one player. You got to focus in on a lot of these guys, and Brandon Strobel, another one of those young men. And then, like I said, you have Max Wars, a forward player here for the Bruins. He's not a huge threat from outside. He can score inside. He does have a nice post presence, gets some rebounds. He rebounds the ball fairly well, but he can't extend that range outside. He's not, like I said, he's not a huge three-point threat, but he can occasionally shoot some and knock them down. And so, again, who's ever guarding him, whatever opponent it might be, you got to get a hand out there on him just to keep him honest, to where he's not going to start going off and just every single time just coming down the floor and shooting threes. But like I said, defensively, man-to-man, occasionally we'll play a zone. We'll press every now and again and try to trap, but they're not a big-time pressing, kind of team. They like to force a little bit more at getting up in your grill on the man-to-man defense, so to speak. So, again, that's the Blackford Bruins. Then next up here, lastly, we have the Rochester Zebras, a pretty hard-nosed group of young men here. And I really didn't get a lot of game as far as being able to see a lot of game film on them. But from some of the games that I did see of theirs, like I said, they're a hard-nosed kind of group. They're not a big-time offensive threat, but they can still put up some nice numbers. Defense, again, man-to-man for the most part, really doesn't showcase any kind of press threat or trapping the ball. From what I've seen, I don't really believe they play a zone. They might, but at least from the games that I've seen, it was mostly a man-to-man type of defense. Now, offensively, you have the likes of 6'1" guard here in Grant McCarter. He's probably their best three-point shooter that they have. And he comes out there, has precision and accuracy with a shot. Can also get inside as well, so he can be a thorn in anybody's side. But again, that's Grant McCarter. Then you have 6'1" guard here in Quinn Stasiak, a very athletic forward, not a guard, excuse me, but a forward that, again, that's physical, can get inside. Has a little bit of muscle on him, so he's, like I said, he's not afraid to be physical. He can get in there and wreak havoc on the inside, so you can't be soft on him whatsoever. I mean, you've got to stay on him and making sure that he can't dictate the outcome of the ball game. And then lastly here, 6'3" forward here in Kyle Reinhardt's, lives on the inside. He does not go outside whatsoever. Occasionally he might set up for a screen. He's kind of a little bit like maybe a Caleb Henderson, if you will. Caleb never shoots threes. This young man hasn't shot a three all year, and that's Reinhardt's. So mostly an inside presence. Kind of reminds me a little bit of maybe a Braxton Davis as far as size. Obviously just an inch or so shorter than him. Maybe not quite as bulky as what Braxton is. I think he's has a little bit of built to him. where Reinhardt's has maybe a slight build to him, but not big time, where he can just completely outmuscle you. But he does have some height, and he can rebound the basketball very well. Again, makes his presence on the inside very well known. So another young man that you've got to keep out of the paint. Just got to keep a body up on him and keep the hands straight up in the air and then block out and rebound after that. But these guys, all these teams, all four of these teams have something different, bring something different to the table, but then also have a lot of similarities. And we didn't go and break down Wapahani because obviously you all know what they can bring to the table. But I went through there and spent quite a bit of time because I want to make sure and get all this right to give all of you the information and what to really look forward to with all these teams, because obviously you get to this time of the year, you've got to be doing something right. And these games are going to be tough. And like I said, we need you to come out. We need you to support this Wapahani Raider boys basketball team coming up again this Saturday, March the 14th, 10:30 start time. So please come on out, support the team. I would probably try to be there by no later than 8:15, 8:30. I know that's 2 hours early, but this is going to be a packed house coming up on Saturday morning. Again, with that being the first game, and then Blackford and Rochester, the second game of the afternoon, with the Regional 10 championship game coming at 8 o'clock. Again, all regional action from LaPel High School. So again, we hope all of you are able to utilize this and hopefully you enjoy it. It's something that, like I said, we take a lot of pride in and try to get all these numbers, all these stats. Like I said, watching tape as well. It's important to us, and we hope that it's important to you. But like I said, it's going to be a big day of basketball coming up from LaPel High School, Regional 10 action, and 4 fantastic basketball teams coming up. So, again, we thank you all for watching us. Again, IHSAA TV has the coverage on Saturday, all regional action from LaPel High School. So make sure to get on there, watch online. Again, we can't broadcast it. We're really sorry about that. And we hope that you aren't mad at us or disappointed. It was nothing that we could do anything about. But we hope you do at least come to the ball game. If not, then direct your attention to the IHSAA TV. So again, folks, we thank you all for watching. Until next time, I'm Brandon Morvillius alongside cameraman Jordan Redbeard McCoy saying good night here on the WHS Network.